Hey guys, King of Charmanders here, and today I bring to you the best water elemental builds for all weapon types. For Curse of the Wandering Flame. And this video analyzes the best water elemental builds as of Curse of the Wandering Flame update for Season 3. And this video will cover builds for both melee and ranged. Now the thing is, water has had small flexible improvements over time, particularly Mizutsune, but yes, water is still not that great as far as flexibility, but definitely better than it was when the game first started. First, we're going to start off with the top water element monster based damage comparison. So we're going to compare the current elemental monster archetypes in the game in comparison to water. And Mizutsune and Korapuke, as you see here per the data, are close to each other with less than a 2% difference. 1.91% to be exact. So if you're trying to juggle at which one's better, typically it's Mizutsune, but there's honestly, at least as for base comparison, not much of a difference. With Gyrotoad being the best budget option, and although you must forge the Jagras sword and shield to progress in the game, please do not upgrade it or anything like that because it is a terrible weapon as far as base, as you see right here. Yes, it's readily available and you can find it in all 3 biomes, but it's not worth building and maxing the Great Jagras, any of its weapons, in any way, shape, or form. It's just way too weak in comparison to the others. And this brings us to the top water melee builds comparison. So we're going to compare the water elemental monster archetypes in terms of melee. As you see here, the top build uses critical elements. And the alternate build that doesn't use a Carnival 2024 mail is only 2.24% weaker than a top build. So if you don't have it, don't worry about it. There is a small difference, and seriously, 2.24% is nothing to sweat about. But if you want to use elemental attack level 5, which is the standard from the lower levels and up, it's still a viable build if you don't want to go after critical element, because critical element is expensive. And now we move on to the builds, starting with the best water melee build at number 1. We have a build that uses a combination of critical element and critical boost. And this build does a practical theoretical damage of 4,104. However, it does require the exclusive Carnival 2024 mail to provide lock-on. And it provides 70% affinity when attacking weak spots and 50% when you aren't, because the Mizutsune weapons at grade 10 give you 20% affinity. So it definitely does a whole lot of damage, and you are going to love it, well, if you have the Carnival 2024 mail. To use this build, you need the Mizutsune melee weapons at grade 8 or grade 10 or as high as you can get it, the Silver Rathalos helmet at grade 8, the Carnival 2024 mail at grade 8, the Azure Rathalos Van Braces at grade 6, the Pink Rathian Coil at grade 6, and the Silver Rathalos Greaves at grade 8. As for the next build, we have the best water melee build at number 2, a build that uses a combination of critical element and burst. And this build does a practical theoretical damage of 4,012. However, it requires the Rathian Van Braces to provide lock-on. And it provides 70% affinity when attacking weak spots and 50% when you aren't. So if you don't have the Carnival 2024 mail, this literally doesn't have much of a difference in comparison to where if you did have it. And it's totally free, so no buying paid tickets or anything like that. However, you do need the Mizutsune melee weapons at grade 8 or grade 10 or as high as you can get it, the Silver Rathalos helmet at grade 8, the Odo Garen mail at grade 6, Rathian Van Braces at grade 6, the Pink Rathian Coil at grade 6, and the Silver Rathalos Greaves at grade 8. Moving on, we have the third build, which uses elemental attack level 5, and this build does a practical theoretical damage of 3,711. Now here's the thing, this does have the Carnival 2024 mail in it. However, if you do not have the Carnival 2024 mail, you can replace it with the Jagras mail and use Rathian Van Braces for lock-on and burst level 2 instead. This will provide 50% affinity, but obviously if you're not using the Carnival 2024 mail, you're only going to have, I believe, 30% affinity. But yeah, you have flexible options, and elemental attack level 5 is still really good. To use this build, you need the Mizutsune melee weapons at grade 8 or grade 10 or as high as you can get it, the Mizutsune helmet at grade 6, the Carnival 2024 mail at grade 8, the Gyrotoad Van Braces at grade 6, Pink Rathian Coil at grade 6, and the Great Jagras Greaves at grade 6. Now that we're done with melee, we're starting off with ranged, and we're going to begin with the bow, and here's the top water bow builds comparison. So the first build uses the critical element build as you see right here, and the second one will use elemental attack level 5. So both builds will work, but with the affinity given by Mizutsune, it makes it so the critical element is stronger than elemental attack 5. However, the difference is still really small with 1.61%. So either one, no matter which one you do use, you're not going to see much of a difference. And this brings us to the best water bow build. Starting at number 1, the build that uses critical element along with critical boost. And this build does a practical theoretical damage of 4,358. It's stronger than the elemental attack level 5 build and can be universally used for the other elemental attacks. In other words, you just have to build this one. You don't have to build another 4. So, if you want it though, you need to be able to have the Silver Rathalos helmet and Silver Rathalos greaves, which are very expensive and are rare species, and are only releasing out in certain events, and maybe in the next season. But, to use this powerful build, you must use the Mizutsune bow at grade 8 or grade 10 or as high as you can get it, the Silver Rathalos helmet at grade 8, the Nightshade Palumu mail at grade 8, the Azure Rathalos fan braces at grade 6, the Rajang coil at grade 8, and the Azure Rathalos greaves at grade 8. Next up, we have the best water bow at number 2, where the build uses elemental attack level 5. And this build does a practical theoretical damage of 4,288. Now it's weaker than the critical element build, and it requires elemental attack level 5 full sets for the rest of the elemental attacks. So up until you get to this point, you're going to need to use elemental attack level 5 anyways, but again, you need one for every single one. So it is weaker, and unfortunately, yeah, you're going to need one for each one. But if you want to use this, there's no problem with it. There's barely a difference in comparison to the critical element build. To use this build, you need the Mizutsune bow at grade 8 or grade 10 or as high as you can get it, the Mizutsune helmet at grade 6, the Nightshade Palumu mail at grade 8, Gyrototus fan braces at grade 6, the Rajang coil at grade 8, and the Great Jagras greaves at grade 6. Now that we covered bows, we move on to the light bowguns, and here's a top Water Light Bowgun builds comparison. And as you see here, the best build uses weakness exploit and critical element. It's very weird and wonky, but along with that you need reload speed level 3 and recoil down level 3 as a standard for light bowgun. As you see right here, there's a whole lot of different combinations when you put in together critical element with the light bowguns. And this top one will use weakness exploit. And now up next we have the best Water Light Bowgun build, and this build uses weakness exploit combined with critical element. At Blint it's just at level 1, but still. This build does a practical theoretical damage of 3,673, and the standard for Mizutsune Light Bowgun is reload speed and recoil down level 3, as with pretty much all light bowguns. Now it will provide 50% affinity when you're attacking weak spots and 20% when you aren't. That's because the Mizutsune Light Bowgun is at grade 10. However, in order to use this build, you need the Mizutsune Light Bowgun at grade 10, the Coral Puke Puke helmet at grade 8, the Palumu mail at grade 6, Legiana van braces at grade 6, the Coral Puke Puke coil at grade 6, and the Silver Rathalos greaves at grade 8. And last but not least, we have the last ranged weapon of water. We have the top Water Heavy Bowgun build comparison. And as we see here, it's actually really cool because the top builds are filled with conditional skills like Latent Power and Fighting Spirit, but the top build uses critical element level 3. So finally, critical element level 3 takes up one of the elements, and for this one it will be the Mizutsune Heavy Bowgun along with critical element level 3. And this brings us to the last build of this video, the best Water Heavy Bowgun build, and this build uses critical element level 3, with a practical theoretical damage of 4,170. The sweet spot for the Mizutsune Heavy Bowgun is reload speed level 3 and recoil down level 3. This is because Mizutsune Heavy Bowgun uses slicing ammo along with piercing water ammo, so you need that recoil for the slicing water ammo. And to use this build, you need the Mizutsune Heavy Bowgun at grade 8 or grade 10 or as high as you can get it, the Silver Rathalos helmet at grade 8, the Palumu mail at grade 6, the Legiana van braces at grade 6, the Coral Puke Puke coil at grade 6, and the Silver Rathalos greaves at grade 8. If only water was that powerful. Unfortunately, water doesn't have as much coverage as the other elements, but it may be useful in the future, in future releases for monsters. So hopefully this video helps you decide what water build to go after. An elemental attack level 5 is still perfectly fine to use if you don't want to invest in critical element. So hopefully this helps you decide what water build you want to use, and we've had a lot of water come out. Mizutsune's come out a bazillion times along with Coral Puke Puke, so hopefully you have your 10-5 water weapon and your full elemental attack water build, or if you did the Shibuya events or the global for Monster Hunter Now Carnival, that you have critical element built. Please do me a huge favor. Like, subscribe, and comment for the YouTube algorithm. Hopefully, y'all are getting all your Rarity 6 drops you need so that you can max out your weapons and armor in preparation for the next season. Good luck on your grinds, and I will see y'all on the next video.